Not every difficult parent yells. Not everyone leaves. Some of them were right there, in the same house, at the same table, and still, somehow, you grew up feeling like you were on your own. An emotionally immature parent doesn't have to be cruel. They just have to be unavailable in the moments that matter most. And the hardest part? You probably didn't notice because you had nothing to compare it to. That was just how home felt. What you did notice, eventually, were the habits. Small, innocent-looking things you started doing, over-explaining, people-reading, shrinking yourself, that felt like personality but were actually adaptations. Quiet little workarounds your nervous system built to survive a home that couldn't meet you where you were. In this video, we're going to trace 10 of those habits back to their source. Not just what you do, but why. Because each one points to a specific gap your parent left, and naming that gap is the first step to understanding why you still carry it. Before we start, a quick frame. An emotionally immature parent isn't necessarily a bad person. They're someone who never fully developed the emotional capacity to hold space for a child's inner world. Sometimes they show up as the volatile parent, reactive, mood-driven, the one whose emotional weather dictated the entire household. Sometimes they're the dismissive parent, present but closed off, uncomfortable with feelings, quick to shut things down. Sometimes they're the absent parent, physically around but emotionally checked out, leaving you to figure out the world by yourself. And sometimes they're the enmeshed parent, overly involved but in a way that centers their needs, not yours. Most emotionally immature parents are a blend. You might recognize more than one. And that's the point of what we're doing here. Each sign you're about to hear maps to a specific parental gap. By the end, you'll start to see not just what you do, but which gap taught you to do it. Number 1. You over-explain everything. You write a paragraph when a sentence would do. You give 3 reasons when 1 is enough. You pre-defend your choices before anyone's even questioned them. It's exhausting, and you know it, but you can't stop. Because stopping feels dangerous. The parent gap. You were dismissed without being heard. Somewhere early on, your words weren't enough. You said how you felt, and it was brushed aside or corrected or talked over, so your system learned, if I explain more, maybe this time they'll actually listen. The over-explaining isn't a habit. It's a negotiation with a parent who was never going to hear you, no matter how clearly you spoke. Number 2. You feel guilty for having emotions. Not big emotions, all of them. You feel sad and immediately think you're being dramatic. You feel angry and call yourself ungrateful. You feel hurt and convince yourself it's your fault for being too sensitive. The emotion arrives, and right behind it, the guilt. The parent gap. Your feelings were treated as an inconvenience. The dismissive or volatile parent couldn't regulate their own emotions, so yours became a problem to manage rather than something to hold. A child who learns that their sadness makes things worse doesn't stop feeling sad. They just learn to feel guilty about it. And that guilt follows them everywhere, whispering that every emotion they have is one too many. Number 3. You become a chameleon in social settings. You shift how you talk, how you sit, even what opinions you share depending on who you're with. You mirror the energy of the room without thinking about it. With loud people, you're loud. With quiet people, you're quiet. You blend so seamlessly that sometimes you wonder, who am I when no one's watching? The parent gap. A volatile or unpredictable parent required constant adaptation. When the emotional climate at home changed without warning, you learned to shapeshift to stay safe. You read the room, figured out what version of you was least likely to trigger a reaction, and became that person. It kept you safe then. But now it means you have 12 versions of yourself, and you're not sure which one is real. Number 4. You struggle to identify what you need. Someone asks, what do you need right now? and you stare at them like they've asked you to solve physics. You genuinely don't know. You can list what everyone else needs in a heartbeat, but turning that lens on yourself feels like looking into fog. The parent gap. An enmeshed parent made every emotional interaction about themselves. Your needs were absorbed into theirs. If they were sad, you were sad. If they needed comfort, you provided it. There was never a clean boundary where their inner world ended and yours began. So you never learned to locate yourself inside your own body. You became fluent in everyone else's needs and illiterate in your own. Number 5, you freeze when someone is disappointed in you, not just discomfort. A full body freeze, your mind goes blank, your chest tightens. Someone's mild frustration hits you like an emergency, and all your adult reasoning vanishes. For a moment, you're not a grown person navigating disagreement. You're a child who's about to lose something they can't afford to lose. The parent gap. Disappointment was the punishment. In emotionally immature households, a parent's displeasure wasn't just a mood, it was withdrawal. Warmth, safety, connection. All of it could vanish the moment you fell short. So disappointment didn't register as feedback, it registered as threat. And your body still responds that way, even when the stakes are nothing like they used to be. Number 6, you're hyper-aware of tone. You don't just hear what people say, you hear how they say it. A slight shift in someone's voice, a pause that's half a second too long, a text that feels a little shorter than usual, and you're already running scenarios. You hear the weather before the words. The parent gap. Tone was your only warning system. With a volatile parent, the words themselves didn't matter as much as the pitch, the speed, the weight behind them. You learned to decode emotional danger from sound alone, the way an animal learns to hear a predator before it sees one. That hyper-awareness kept you ahead of the storm. But now, in safe rooms with safe people, your ears are still scanning for thunder that isn't coming. Number 7. You over-prepare for everything. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You pack for every possible version of tomorrow. You have a backup plan for your backup plan, and you've already imagined the 5 worst-case scenarios before breakfast. People call you organized. What they don't see is that the organizing is a way to keep the ground from shifting underneath you. The parent gap. An unpredictable parent made safety feel conditional. When the rules of the house changed, depending on someone's mood, you learned that nothing was guaranteed, so you prepared for everything, because preparation was the only form of control you had. It's not planning. It's a child who learned that if they didn't think 3 steps ahead, the floor might disappear. Number 8. You feel responsible for your parents' happiness. Even now. Even as an adult. You call them, and if they sound flat, something in you tightens. You adjust your tone, steer the conversation to something lighter, try to leave them feeling better than you found them. Their mood is still, somehow, your assignment. You left the house years ago, but the job description never expired. The parent gap. Emotional role reversal. The enmeshed or emotionally dependent parent treated you as their stabilizer. You weren't just their child. You were their regulator, and a child who becomes responsible for a parent's emotional state doesn't get to be a child. They get to be a finely tuned instrument, always reading, always adjusting, always playing the note the room requires. That instrument is still playing. You just forgot you're the one it's being played on. Number 9. You distrust compliments. Someone says something kind about you, and your first instinct isn't warmth, it's suspicion. What do they want? What's the catch? You smile, say thank you, and quietly file it under unverified. Praise doesn't land. It hovers, and you watch it like something that might turn. The parent gap. Praise was conditional or came with strings. In some emotionally immature homes, compliments were currency. You were praised when you performed, when you were useful, when you made the parent look good. So you learned that kind words aren't free. They're invoices. And now, even when someone offers you genuine warmth with no agenda, you can't quite believe it, because the original deal taught you that every nice thing has a cost. Number 10. You feel relieved when plans get canceled. A friend cancels dinner, and instead of disappointment, you feel a wave of freedom. Not because you don't care about them, but because showing up, performing, monitoring, adjusting requires a kind of energy other people don't seem to need. For you, social time isn't just social, it's a second shift. The parent gap. Your home required performance, so all interaction became effortful. The emotionally immature parent trained you to show up as a carefully managed version of yourself. Watchful, attuned, never fully relaxed. That template carried into every relationship. So when plans disappear, what you're actually feeling is the relief of not having to be on. The exhaustion isn't antisocial. It's the residue of a childhood where being around people was never quite safe enough to be easy. If you traced yourself through these 10 signs, you may have noticed something. The habits point inward, but the cause always points back to the room you grew up in. That's not blame, it's just geography. You adapted to the emotional landscape you were given, and you did it brilliantly. Every habit here was a child's best available strategy for an impossible situation. But here's the thing worth saying out loud. The strategy that saved you then is not the strategy that serves you now. You don't have to keep over-explaining to be heard. You don't have to keep scanning the room to be safe. You're allowed to take up space, have emotions, and disappoint people without it meaning you've lost everything. That doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with this: seeing the pattern, naming the gap, and understanding that the habit was never a flaw. It was a bridge you built to get across something a child should never have had to cross alone. At Inner Lens, this is what we do. We trace the pattern back to where it started and meet it with a little more understanding than it got the first time around. If that's the kind of thing you want to keep exploring, the next video follows the thread deeper. The quiet signs you grew up walking on eggshells. It's right here. I'll see you there.